Okay, we're being joined by Krishna Poda, the CEO of SARAS Analytics. Welcome, Krishna. Please tell us a bit about yourself and your company.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the chat here. Krishna here, co-founder and CEO of the company called SARAS Analytics. We are an AI infrastructure company. We work with brands. We help them get their data and AI infrastructure set up so that they can automate their business workflows on top of that and drive business value.
Very
Been in the
cool.
business for about 10 years now.
Wow. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Let's get into it. So, you work with e-commerce CEOs every day. What's the biggest gap you see between brands that aggressively implement AI and ones that kind of take their time with it?
Got it. Uh, Fundamentally, I believe that AI transformation only happens when the CEO of a company or a brand determines that it's a priority. Priority for me is indicative based on the actions that they take rather than just someone saying that it is a priority, right? So we say health is my priority. I don't hit the gym. I don't eat clean. My actions indicate that it's not a priority, but in reality, but when you hear me say, I'm saying it's a priority. So the ones that I see being successful not only say that AI is a priority, but they're also making active investments into people, technology, coaching, etc., to get their team ready and using these AI tools and building value on top of that.
Totally agree with that. So you're basically saying a good AI transformation or rollout in companies is needs to be a CEO directive, not bottoms up experiment, right? So why does it fail, you think, when it is bottoms up, right? When the curious person on the team running AI pilots and the CEO is not super connected to AI rollouts?
In my view, you need both bottoms up innovation and top down directive as well. When both of them come together is when real magic happens, in my opinion. So so a bottom up initiative might give benefits for an individual team member or a specific team, but a top down directive will ensure that the entire company is benefiting from AI, provided the roadmap is done well, the execution is done well, etc. So a top-down initiative definitely forces priorities in terms of actions, uh, and actions lead to measurable outcomes and results. So definitely, in my opinion at least, for me at SARAS Analytics, AI is one of the top three priorities for the business for every single department, including for HR. Right. So I would assume that even for a brand, the same thing would hold because there is some serious value unlocked here with AI.
Very cool. Okay. Let's move on to a real AI use case that you automated, right? What does that system actually look like, and what changed once it was live?
I can give you a couple use cases. One of them is a daily, weekly, monthly business summary for the CEO and the chief marketing officer. A report that would typically go once a month now goes daily. And after that, a more summarized version of that goes weekly and subsequently at a monthly level. Just putting that report for a brand that is running in multiple countries, multiple channels, running advertising across a whole gamut of systems for a single person who has access to a single source of truth, an analyst with access to a single source of truth would take hours to put together. We have reduced that to minutes. So the report goes out 8 a.m. in the morning. The CEO could look at it, understand what moved in the business, analysis on why that, a particular metric moved in the direction. And all of that, once we developed it, is automated. So we rolled it out for the CEO. He liked it so much that they've asked the international leader, saw that in one of his meetings. They came back and said, hey, can we get that for my team, and so on and so forth, right? So now we are working with the marketing team for the same thing. Not only are these summaries important for business reviews and meeting with the team, reviewing goals and progress and performance, but is also important for forward planning. And to get that report automated, fully automated and delivered, means that the people who are working on it to put this manually together, working for many hours in a week or a month, get their time back to focus on more strategic initiatives. So that's one example I could give you from a executive summary standpoint. Another rather simple use case, but a high value use case is a customer came back and asked us, guys, when we are running low on a particular SKU with some thresholds, uh, we want to we want you to go check if there is a PO that is pending and that hasn't shipped yet. Because if the PO is not pending and hasn't shipped yet, then we could just get on a call with the supplier and ask them to expedite shipping rather than putting on a board where we put that delivery on a flight, ship it faster so that you don't get into a out of stock situation, right? Now, to be able to do that, you need a system that has access to your PO data. You have access to your inventory, consolidated inventory data across all sales channels, etc. And by automating that use case, we were able to uncover some scenarios where it could have led to a potential stockout situation, but that was averted because the AI agent caught it on time that flagged these issues to the buyer, and the buyer could get on a call with the supplier and change the shipping terms, right? So something like that would have gone unnoticed completely. Or worse, we notice it, but after stockout has happened, where there's really no recourse for correction.
I love these use cases and I want to dive deeper on them. Automated reporting, we heard from Dan at Topo Designs, preventing stockouts. Mike at Simple Modern sort of shared some of that. Obviously, Krishna, you talked about the importance of a strong data infrastructure to then unlock all of this, right? So, what does that mean in practice? What does a brand, let's say, doing $25 million dollars a year need to have in place to start to unlock some of this automation that you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, infrastructure might sound technical to many people, but the nuts and bolts of it is you have your order data sitting with Amazon, sitting with Shopify, sitting with Walmart. You have your advertising spend happening in Facebook, Google, Amazon, across the board. If I have a simple question that says, what were my total sales yesterday and what were my total returns yesterday across all of these channels, I have to go to every single one of these, uh, marketplace web application or a Shopify admin panel, download the report, get that data into a spreadsheet, and then calculate what was the sum of my sales yesterday, right? So for such a simple use case, I need to download three CSVs, massage that data into something that would give me meaningful results. A data infrastructure is just that consolidation on steroids, where there is data feeding from all of these systems into a single data warehouse, into a single location, um, where the data is clean, organized, and set up, just like how you would take your, uh, you know, physical warehouses, right? Where you're getting all of your goods in, shipped to the warehouse, but then you are organizing it by lots, you're organizing it by shelves, you're organizing it by trays so that it's easy for people to, you know, go find what you need in a particular aisle at this particular lot in this particular tray is where your product lies in. A digital data warehouse is sort of a manifestation of that, where we are getting data from quote unquote multiple suppliers of data, right? Instead of suppliers of parts that go into a physical warehouse, we are talking about suppliers of data, which are Shopify, Amazon, Facebook, so on and so forth. And we then go in there, organize that data into lots, bins, etc., so that any consumer who is interested in parts of that data from the warehouse can pull it, use it, and take decisions based on that.
We spoke a little bit about this last week, and so once you've got your data infrastructure clean, we also talked about how these tools are just kind of fancy autocompletes in some ways, and the way Ben might query the data might result in a different deliverable or outcome than I might query the data, even if we're operating off of the same data infrastructure. What is a semantic layer, and what is the role of that in ensuring consistency?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a very technical answer and there's more business friendly answer. But at the end of the day, how semantics define English as a language, where it makes it easily understood by everybody, data also has a semantic structure to it. At the end of the day, a semantics layer is helping consumers of data. It runs behind the scenes. They don't really get exposed to it so much. Uh, maybe in one-off situations. Uh, Semantic layer is helping you understand where is my data, how is that data organized. If I have to go find net sales, how is that net sales calculated? What data is it pulling in from, right? It does net sales include my Amazon data? Does net sales include canceled orders? Does net sales include return orders? So there is a logic behind how a metric like net sales is calculated. Uh, and semantic layer is, to put it in very simplistic terms, is a mechanism where you actually store these definitions so that anybody who is pointing to net sales as a metric, the underlying logic remains consistent for how to pull it, right? Why is this important? If I'm a marketer, I generally won't be caring so much about return product because my job as a marketer primarily is to drive demand. And if the product is not good and the product gets returned, that is something a marketer should know but cannot really control, right? So the revenue metric for a marketer may be different. They might be interested more in demand revenue that they're driving, which doesn't include returns. Uh, but for a finance person, returns and cancellations, all of these become important because finance needs that true how much money is hitting my bank account sort of number, right? So when a marketer says revenue, they might mean one thing. When a finance person says revenue, it might mean another thing. And what semantic layer does is it ensures that the right person is being fed with the right definition. But when they say net revenue, they actually get the same definition that is aligned at the business level. That makes sense.
It does. So if I'm understanding everything correctly, your data sits in a structured warehouse. Potentially, you've set up a connector through Claude, and in that connector, there's a middle ground skill or semantic layer that defines for the entire organization what key terms mean when it's being queried. So I guess my
Right.
closing question for you then is, what is the difference for a brand who is doing all of that, is connecting through Claude versus another one who's just uploading spreadsheets all the time in sort of one-offs? What are the teams who are uploading spreadsheets in these one-off instances potentially getting wrong that the others who are
Mhm.
more deeply embedded into Claude are getting from it?
So AI speeds up a lot of workflows. For instance, right, I use AI all the time. And let me ask you this question also, right? When you use an AI tool, do you ever get an answer where you just copy paste what you get and you continue on with you? You never get that answer, right? Why is that the case? The reason that is the case is because is a generalized system where it is giving you an answer that upon further prompting, you refine and you get to the final state, right? Uh, Unfortunately, with data, that is not an option. If I if I get the CEO to use Claude and they go and ask a question, what were my sales yesterday? It gives a number. And then the CEO is going, oh, remove canceled orders from this number, or remove test orders from this number, or don't apply this conversion rate. They're not going to sit and do that, right? They expect from an AI system, when they are asking a data backed question, they want an answer that is 100% accurate, qualitatively and quantitatively, right? So that way, the AI data universe is slightly different from the other AI universe, like generating a creative or generating a narrative or generating a campaign brief, where AI can get it 70-80% right in a matter of a few minutes. And then I'm spending a few more minutes to tidy it up and get it to a version that I would be okay with, right? When you are uploading your spreadsheets, what you lack is one, it becomes your own uh, AI spreadsheet. So this is a funny story, right? So customers generally use spreadsheets to understand how their business is doing. Now, and that has been the case for many years. You get a number, you ask, you pick three different spreadsheets, the number might be very different. The number of customers in one spreadsheet might be different from another spreadsheet to another spreadsheet. When each of these spreadsheets gets uploaded to Claude, the same thing is just getting propagated to Claude, right? Where Claude is now summarizing confidently what is in the spreadsheet, but it is not necessarily fixing the gap that exists in a spreadsheet. Whereas if you replace these spreadsheets with a single source of truth, with a context or a semantic layer on top of it, and every single user in the business is connecting to this underlying infrastructure through an MCP, the same question will give the same answer to every single user, regardless of who is asking that question. That's one benefit. The second benefit is spreadsheets generally have a drift in definitions because the spreadsheets are generally department level. So the marketing team might make a slight tweak to their spreadsheet that doesn't get communicated to maybe the finance team or the chief of staff who's helping put something together for the CEO, right? Then these, again, the benefit of having the single source of truth and the context layer is these drifts can be caught quickly. Uh, and if you have an approval layer on top of the context, then if you're making a change, that change doesn't get reflected everywhere. That change goes through an approval process. And once the approval process is done, then the context is changed and everybody sees the same thing again, right? So to put it in simpler terms, spreadsheets created these silos. Spreadsheets uploaded to Claude will accelerate the workflow for that individual user, but they're also perpetuating the silos, in my opinion. And having that unified layer uh, is the right way, has been the right way, continues to be the right way. And with AI coming into play, uh, having that single source of truth will just unlock some serious efficiency for businesses because uh, earlier, the bottleneck was creating a dashboard would take a month. Right now, creating a dashboard on a data warehouse is a few minutes of working Claude, right? Like that's real power for the users, in my opinion.
You said the key words for me, which is a single source of truth. We get that all the time, right? We have one dashboard gives you one number, another dashboard gives you another number. They pull from the same data source, but the definitions are different. That semantic layer you spoke about is very, very important. Having a very organized data warehouse is very, very important. So a lot of what you're saying is resonating. And then when you add AI to the equation, you got to make sure that you ask it a question in a different way, different users ask it in a different way, it'll give you the same data and the same answer every time, and that's a bit of a challenge. That was great, Krishna. Thank you for joining on the show. Tell operators where can they find out more about you and SARAS Analytics.
Uh, so I'm on LinkedIn under Krishna Poda. Last name is Poda. Uh, Website is sarasanalytics.com. Yeah, hit us on the contact us page. Let us know you've heard about me from the Operators podcast, and I'm happy to jump on a call, talk AI, share my own experiences, whatever makes sense.
Thanks for joining, Krishna.
Thanks, Krishna.
Thanks for having me, guys.